Hi, I'm Tim Aitken. I farm a deer farm out in central Hawke's Bay, Tikakino. We have 600 plus breeding hinds here and a finishing operation for first light venison with a stud for them, looking at meat in the box. So what we're doing standing here at the moment is we're looking at our silage pit, which is a self-feeding silage pit. There's an area of a self-feeding silage pit. We harvest the grass in the spring when we have excess grass. Deer have got a very flat demand curve, so in the spring when we get that huge growth curve, we actually take the top off the grass and we harvest that and put it in here and use it in the winter. So we harvest about 400 tonnes wet a year, and we winter around 380 to 400 hinds on it for 90 days. So that's it. So in that process we had about this paddock here, and we had a lot of mess, and it was a big breakdown, and it was just mud really, which was causing a lot of concern. We mitigated a lot of that by putting some sediment traps in and fencing off our waterways, but I still felt that that was not enough. So now we've changed it a wee bit, so we're actually fencing off now that the deer will have 3 larger paddocks over the winter. They'll have those for about a third of the time, so 30 days in each roughly. And then that way I believe you won't have so much damage and you'll still confine it to the area. So all the water that flows off this will still go down into the sediment traps that we've already put in, but I believe that the water quality of that will still be acceptable and above what we could have if we had them over the whole farm. If you look over my left shoulder, there's it's a bit hard to see, but where that grass is there by the fence, there's quite a bit of rutting and rough area where the hinds in the winter would be walking through it. Now this whole paddock was like that, so imagine that without any grass on it. It was just one big boggy area, so they're living in mud. It wasn't doing their health any good, and I don't think it was doing the environment any good. So one of the main reasons we're doing this feeding pad for the hinds with the silage is that having them running around the farm over the winter over the hills and behind us, which are quite light silt loam, so they do break down pretty easily and pretty quickly. I believe by keeping all the damage or potential damage into a small area, you can mitigate against it. And while they're all here, the grass covers behind us are growing, and so by the time we get to late September, early October, I'm hoping to have my covers around that 1800 up on the hills. So then the hinds go out there on good covers to fawn. So not worry too much about the covers coming into the winter up there, but make sure the covers are up by the time we hit the spring and when I really need them for fawning. So a lot of these trees are actually from here. This is a white pine that we actually collected the seeds from around the dam, and we've propagated it and planted it. So we planted about 100 of those. Lost a lot of them in the drought, but planting manuka and kanuka again after cutting it down as a kid. Spending a lot of time chopping it down, now planting it again. So this is a sediment trap that we have built 5 years ago. And this was just a paddock beforehand with a bit of a wet area in it. I approached the regional council because we're uncomfortable with the silage pit and the feed pad up there. So we decided that we needed to put some sediment traps in here, so the water's captured from the silage pit down and it comes through one other sediment trap and into this main one here. So the regional council were happy to do that, the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and they gave me quite a lot of money to help fund this project. And since then we've planted a couple of thousand trees in here and just been quietly developing it over the years. So the species we planted in here is mainly native trees from around this area, and a lot of them have been propagated from seeds that are from around this farm. So we've sort of gone underneath bits of bush and scraped all up the dirt and got the seeds out of it and seen what's growing. And yeah, I would rather put a lot of natives in. That's just my personal choice. There is some gum trees and some small willow trees that were already there, but they will come out at some stage once the native trees get a bit more established. So yeah, it's all about trying to get the birds back. There's one thing I've learned about sourcing natives to grow around the dam is to source them from the area. Don't get them from another area, they just don't seem to grow as well, or take a lot longer to establish. So we get ours just down the road or grow them from the seeds from around here. So behind me, if we have a look here, is a dock block that Lucy and I fenced off in 1993 when we first came here. It's 8 hectares. One of the thinking behind that, it was all one big paddock, and we tried to get the hinds out of there and couldn't. So it was either cut it down or fence it off, and we decided to fence it off. We approached DOC and they helped us do the fencing, and with that we put a covenant on it. So it's protected for life. The amazing thing is that we've been having a pest control in there now for 15 years, 20 years, and the bird life coming out of the bush is fantastic. We've got mobs of 30 to 40 native pigeons flying around. We will have 20, 30 tuis in the garden at any one time, bellbirds. We've had kakas up here living around in it as well, falcon, all the native species are coming back, and I directly associate that to not having the possums around. Lucy and I have been involved in First Light, which is a marketing company for venison for the last 7 years. I'm a director and a shareholder in that, and part of that is supplying chilled product around the world with a fairly high environmental standard as well as animal health standards around that, the QA. We enjoy it because we're actually supplying the consumer through First Light, so we actually own the product all the way into the market. No one else owns it, so we have control of where it goes, who we sell it to, and we actually get paid for what it is worth in the marketplace. And we get a lot of customers coming around the farm here and having a look at it and seeing what we're trying to achieve environmentally and also with our breeding programs as well. And part of that, we were asked 2 years ago, 2011, to put our name forward for Marks and Spencer, which is a Supplier of the Year award, and that has an international plus suppliers in England, and that can be any supplier. So it can be a carrot farmer, a flower farmer, meat, like we're doing with Venison. It could be anyone that supplies them, and we won that award as the international supplier and went on to win it overall, and that was fantastic recognition of what we're doing around environmental, around sustainability, around bringing school kids back onto the farm, around our involvement in the community, the breeding program. It was a whole picture of the whole farm, it wasn't just one area. So it was nice to have that award.